next guest is a very funny comedian you know from his work on Saturday Night Live, which airs this Saturday at 11:30 on NBC, and Peacock with host Willem Dafoe and musical guest Katy Perry. Please welcome to the show, James Austin Johnson, everyone. Show.
Wow. Hello, everyone.
I have a lot of questions about SNL, but I want to start by congratulating you on
exactly?
the birth of Homer. Look at Homer, everybody.
I had a baby?
You had a baby.
You're kidding me.
And you posted this on Instagram, and thank you so much for promoting the show, Homer.
Late night with Seth Meyers.
I also don't think I even have one of those, so...
well, I have 47 of them, and I think he had just spit up, so I had just changed him into
okay, got you. Well, that's the
number
thing.
31.
You got to have backups with how much they spit up. So this baby was born this month?
This month, he was born January 4th, 2022. Is that what
That's where we're at? Yeah.
And he's beautiful. He's actually gorgeous. He's a very beautiful boy.
That's great.
And he looks exactly like my wife, which is awesome. Doesn't have a freaky, long character actor beak.
Working backwards, this means that you got hired on SNL. At the time, that meant that you had your wife was pregnant, and then you had to move to New York City. You had a lot happened all at once for you.
Dude. If no one has ever told a woman who's 6 months pregnant that she has to move to New York in the middle of winter, you should do it. You should give it a try, because that was one of my favorite conversations I've ever had.
It's the perfect reason to do it, and I have had, I feel like some of your experience I'm familiar with because I was also on SNL, but my first year, I was in like 2 sketches.
Right, yeah.
Your first episode, you opened the show playing Joe Biden, which is, I cannot even imagine the pressure of taking that on. It was fantastic, and now I had heard you do some impressions before, but I had not. I had not heard your Biden. Did you have a Biden?
My Biden was, on the list. When I got here, they asked me to send them a list of all the impressions that I do, and I would say that Biden was like, number 38 down the list of like my confidence level in it. But they had seen a video of me doing Biden, and they were like, yeah, that may come up down the road. That was like what I heard when I was getting seen for the show.
But on the first Saturday, when did you find out you were going to play Biden?
Like Thursday night. Like Thursday night. Thursday night, I had one of those cryptic Lorne meetings where he you walk into a room and he's like, how do you feel about wearing pants? Like, he just asks you those weird questions, and I'm like, 45 minutes later, you think, I think they're going to ask me to do Biden, maybe. Right. It was that kind of, are you comfortable with accessories?
Right.
Like, would he like to wear teeth?
He asked me when I went in, and I realized after the fact, it was the meeting he hired me in. One of the things he said was, and obviously we'll need to see how you look in wigs. And I was like, what? Did you know when you had your meeting with him, did you know he had hired you?
Yeah, so they have this, after you do the audition, you go in and maybe you'll have a meeting with them, and I got called into one of those meetings, and very mysterious and cryptic and warm at the same time somehow, and he was like, are you married? I was like, yes, I am. Children? My wife is 5 months pregnant at this point. She's about to be 6 months pregnant. That's a good sign. When's your baby due? And I was like, Christmas Eve. And then he looks at the big calendar of when the shows are going to be on his wall, and he goes, we have a show December 18th. I was like, I do? I'm washing my hands 30 minutes later, did I just do I have to move?
Did you ever get an official call of any sort?
They said after that meeting, they were like, tomorrow you might be getting a call from a very important producer. I was like, okay, this is it. I think it's going to happen. And then I went to a movie with some friends. My phone was on 5% because that's how I live.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, please don't die. Please don't die. If this phone dies and I miss this call, they cast me back out into commercial actor hell.
That's the thing. If Lorne, famously, if Lorne gets voicemail, he's like, who's next on the list?
Yeah. Yeah. Lorne famously, if there's one hurdle, he quits. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I didn't get a call. And then I was so drained from the process, and I had shot a big thing for the whole month beforehand. So I was like, my wife was on vacation with our families in Tennessee. I was here in New York. I was like, I'm not getting on a bumpy Southwest flight right after the most stressful audition of my life and just sitting back down in Nashville trying to eat baked beans while my hands are like going like this. Can I get some more pork shoulder? And I was like, I need to decompress somehow. So I took an Amtrak train from New York to Birmingham.
Now, that strikes me as even shakier than eating beans.
24 hours in a coach seat on Amtrak? What are you talking about? You got the guy reaching over you with his like little cord. Can I plug this in? And so I was hanging out on the Amtrak train, and I got a call from a weird number, and I picked it up, and the girl was like, "Lorne Michaels-Fried," and then he got put in, and I was like crying. I was like in tears because I was like just so exhausted. And they didn't call when they said they were going to call. So,
yeah.
So then I get patched through to Lord, and he's like, "Yeah, we got the wrong number. So I think I've hired somebody else too. Where are you?" "Oh, I'm on an Amtrak train from New York to Birmingham." And he goes, "Oh, what a glamorous life you lead." By the way, you need to join the Cast Saturday Night.
Well, that's wonderful. You made a great choice. I first became aware of you. I think maybe a lot of people became aware of you hearing your Donald Trump impression. You were also playing Donald Trump on the show.
Also Donald Trump.
Yeah, so that's the last two presidents. That's good. That's a hot start.
Yeah, both current presidents.
That's
really
amazing.
Interesting to play both guys. But I think as a team, they're doing a great job.
I think so too. Team
a little
rivals.
bit of him, a little bit of that guy, mix it up. It's pretty interesting having to differentiate. I haven't had to do them both in the same sketch yet, but with TV magic, anything's possible.
Could happen. Your Trump is very stream of consciousness. And when did you come to that sort of awareness that was the fun part of doing it?
So I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm from a pretty conservative environment. I was raised in. I went to church 18 times a week or something like that. And so the stream of consciousness thing. I think I just, as the more progressive member of my family, I remember the Thanksgiving where I was like, I voted for Obama. Nothing. So I've always been that guy in my family, and so when Trump came on the scene, I was pissed.
Yeah.
I don't like this guy. He's weird and he's mean. And it broke my heart for a long time. And then I was a Voices guy, so obviously I have to try out doing a Trump. And so the first times that I tried doing the Trump, it just sort of reflected my sort of liberal black sheep anger. We're gonna kill everybody. I was saying stuff that no one wanted to hear, or I'd say like things he actually said, and I just remember the audience just always yanking back, especially as I got the voice. As I started sounding like him, and then I would just say horrific things, people hated it.
Yeah.
And you're performing in noisy bars all the time. You don't want them to be quiet with no laughs. That means you've touched on something that everyone hates. They're putting down their Moscow mules to hate it. And then at some point, I just started I realized the stuff that he's talking about, we got over hundreds of years ago. He's like bringing up like these issues that we don't even think about anymore. So that's when I started abstracting him. I made him like a guy talking about the wizard on the hill. Like I would do like a medieval Trump, like a fantasy movie Trump. Like, you know what? The king is doing nothing about the gigantic dragon. We've got this giant dragon that nobody's doing anything about. And the guy who comes through in the morning, he does the swords and he's banging the hammer. And I said, you know what? If I could just, believe me, this is true. Only I can get the amulet. Only I can get the amulet, and that wizard we're gonna make that wizard's head spin. When I have the enchanted sword, we're gonna plunge that enchanted sword straight into the dragon's soft underbelly. And that's when I started getting the laughs with it. Making it really
it's very nice. You also, yes, please.
Thank you, sure. Thank you.
You also, you obviously have a very good ear for this. You made this observation by listening about he makes like weird throat noises.
Yeah, he's been in the public consciousness for 100 years.
Yeah.
We have known him. He's in Home Alone 2. You know what I mean? I think he had a show on this network at some point.
No.
He's been around. We've been listening to him. So you have all these different impressions of him. Everybody does a different era of Trump, you know what I mean? And when he came back in the 2010s, ready to be president, his voice had deteriorated a lot. Have you ever seen Bob Dylan live now? Like, did I pay for a Tom Waits show or something like that? That's what's happened to him, and his voice is very, very gurgly, Hillary. He goes back here. And there's a lot of... So accessing sort of the dark dungeons of my throat was necessary to play this Trump, because he's not the smooth 80s. She's got beautiful legs. He's not really 80s Trump anymore. Remember 80s Trump?
Yeah.
80s Trump. She's a very nice person. I'm looking forward to speaking with her. He's not that guy anymore. Man, she's beautiful, and I'm gonna take over everything, baby. He went down.
He went down.
He went a few floors down.
And we have a lot more we're going to talk to with James Austin Johnson right after this.